Hello. So this is the first live stream that we're going to be doing, hopefully after quite a lot of the games for this season. Sorry, it says powered by StreamYard in that side. So I'm inverted on camera as well. It's very odd. We're just trialing this to see how these live streams go. And of course, with it being the first game of the season, it's hard to not talk about it. Norwich City did lose on opening day. They lost 2-0 away at Oxford United at the Kassam Stadium. Mark Harris and Cameron Brannigan were on the score sheet, but there was a lot more to talk about than just that. Of course, there was the news about Jonathan Rowe pulling out of the squad. He didn't want to play. So do let us know your thoughts in the comments below on the live stream. You can just type them in and I'll pick out a few and we can share your thoughts, and then I can have a bit more of a talk about it. And then, so we can just sort of see where we go, really. But going back to that Jonathan Rowe news, I put a tweet out earlier as well. I think it's really upsetting, the fact that this is what it's come to with Jonathan Rowe, and the fact that amid all this interest from Marseille, and whether or not a bid was submitted last night, it doesn't really matter to me personally. I think the way in which this has been handled by him is really, really poor. For someone who was given his big chance from the academy last season to be a first-team player and then end up, really, he should be cracking on and getting his head down, really, and playing more games. But it's difficult, really. Of course, when you see maybe Norwich City as a bit of a stepping stone in your career, of course, that's usually how it ends up with us, especially sort of younger players. Maybe even you could argue with Gabriel Sara potentially moving on to Galatasaray, taking that next step. Just for Rowe, it seems odd. I think with Godfrey and Aarons, how they cracked on, got their heads down, and they got on with it. They just kept playing. They didn't say, "Oh, I can't play because of all this interest is on me. It's affecting my headspace. I can't play." But no, it's whatever. It's up to him. And obviously, Torup has called it out, and there's going to be a big talk about that, and even saying himself that it can't happen. But anyway, that's sort of enough about that. But going on to the game against Oxford, of course, not the result anyone wants, especially Torup and his management staff. He's not going to be too best pleased with that. You would like to think anyway, being a new manager, of course, he's going to want to win as many games as he can. But it is, you could argue, maybe predictable. Norwich don't really have a great record on the opening day of seasons. But even still, Oxford were always going to be right up for the game. Newly promoted side, playing at home, sold-out crowd, against a top outfit in the Championship in Norwich City. There's no denying that. Norwich are most likely going to be fighting in the playoff hunt, but it's still a very disappointing result. And maybe some could argue with what's been happening in pre-season that there were warning signs. Of course, against St. Pauli at Carrow Road, it was a rather dire performance. And then also losing to Magdeburg, only won once in pre-season. So you could, and that was against Northampton, who were the only side Norwich played who were lower ranked than them. So there's a lot you could maybe look into that potentially and think Norwich haven't been the best. Was that a cause for concern? It could be, it could not. Of course, there's 45 more games for Norwich to worry about. So that's fine. There's a whole big season here to revamp. And you can even in the next game against Stevenage in the Carabao Cup, or at home to Blackburn this time next week in their next Championship game. There's so much time still for Torup to learn. No, not Torup to learn. Sorry, the players to learn. So it's been a long day. It's been a long day. It's weird when we have a 12:30 kickoff, and now it's 7:30 pretty much. So it's been a long day. A lot's happened, but it is certainly interesting that. Sorry, I'm sorry. My brain's getting a little bit fried. But no, sorry. What was I on about? Yeah, Torup and how we've got a long season. There we go, back on track. But yeah, there is still a long time to go. But there's no denying that. There is 45 games to go after today, and Norwich have got so much time to put it right, and for the players to learn Torup's style of play and see how that can be continuously integrated, and maybe are we going to need more signings? Probably so. And there we go. We've got a first comment that I can show. Thank you. So anyone else who's watching and hasn't put one in yet, do let me know any of your thoughts. I'm more than happy to share them, and we can have a bit of a discussion. We can go back and forth, albeit it's a bit virtual. But thank you, Mr. Cheesy Potato. That's some name that. I might have that for my dinner in a minute after I get off this. Saying the only good thing was Forson's performance. I can't really sorry, let me put that back up if people haven't seen it. Can't really disagree with you. I think he looks a decent talent. There's no denying that. If you haven't already seen the video I did about Amankwa Forson and this was before the deal was announced. I did a video about it and sort of more things about the deal. Do check that out if you don't know already, or if you haven't already, sorry. But no, he did look promising. I have to definitely agree with you on that. I thought he looked sharp. There's definitely a very good player in there. But of course, it's going to take time for him to be unearthed and eventually for him to be probably a starter. I think realistically, after the signing was made, the club were trying to get him in and register him as a first-team player before the game. They've done very well to do so because it was a quick turnover period, has to be said. But I think maybe he will start against Stevenage. I think that would make sense. There's also Jose Cordoba looks more likely to start against Stevenage. I think that's where really we're going to see a lot of the players who maybe weren't integrated today play quite a bit more, and maybe you would like to think against Stevenage, who we were meant to play in pre-season, but we didn't because their pitch was not up to standard. But I do think that game, it's the perfect way to bounce back from a result like this, isn't it? You're playing a team in a lower league than you at home. Perfect just to get a big result, get the fans properly on track again. But it is frustrating still because Oxford, on paper, you look at the quality of starting 11s that were put out, and that's another point actually that I'll go on to just after this. That was such a weird starting 11, wasn't it? I'd love to again. Do let me know your thoughts because otherwise, I'll probably end up ending this a little bit too early. But who knows? Maybe that's what people want. I don't know. I'm not here to speculate. But I do think in terms of team selection, and then again going back to what I've just said about on paper, no one would have given Oxford a chance given the starting 11 differences. Although they've got some very talented individuals, Cameron Brannigan, of course, scored the second goal. He is a quality player. I'm amazed Oxford have managed to keep him for the amount of time they have. Ruben Rodriguez, another quality little player, was so good in the National League and League Two for Notts County, and now is probably going to have a half-decent season in the Championship with Oxford. Had a decent one with them in League One last season. And then even you look at Will Volks, that is a fantastic signing from them. And, it's not really... First half, I thought was even. You could, statistics-wise, it was even, and we were sort of in the game. But, and then Grant Hanley just decides to do Grant Hanley things for their first goal. It is annoying because it just seems so predictable, the goals that we're going to concede. And then here you go, we got another comment here, so we can discuss this, and then I'll sort of go on to some proper discussion about the team news. We've got this here for FPL Hayden. Thank you for watching and giving me your thoughts. Saying here, thought Norwich were a really poor outfit, even without Rowe. Makes me more confident we can grab an away win at Carrow Road next Saturday. Well, who knows? Who knows? Of course, Blackburn won on the opening day. For what it's worth, I thought they were brilliant against Derby. They were fantastic. I watched that game last night. Really sharp, Blackburn. I think they'll amass a lot of people's expectations. I think of course, keeping Schmodix would be the best bit of business they can do. I don't think that will happen. But after he came off the bench, changed the game. Andy Vyman was electric as well. Asahi looked very good. Yeah, Blackburn, I have to say, very good. And Norwich are a bit of a poor outfit at the minute. I do think these players are still clinging on to the end of last season and how it ended under David Wagner, and a lot of the time it was really poor. Of course, beat Preston and then didn't win again for the rest of the season. It can do things to you mentally, I would like to think. It is a big struggle. There's no doubt about that. I think Norwich are going to going to struggle in these first few weeks, where they will be learning under Johannes tore up, and the players will still be, they'll have to be coached that play style, because it took Daniel Farke a whole season, and obviously he ended up being more than all right, and that ended up perfectly fine. But yeah, who knows? Of course, without Rowe, we were probably always going to be a bit worse. I do think that is, again, a very fair point to say, even without Rowe, we're poor, but or even with it as well. But without Rowe, we're always going to be poor. Like, he was one of our best players last season, and when you don't have a player like that and you replace him with Christian Fastnacht in this game, it's going to be tough. It is. So anyway, we'll go on to George's point here. Thank you for watching, George, and sharing your thoughts. Saying here, need to find a balance between giving the team patience and basic expectation. Beating a team that's never played Championship football before, well, unfortunately they have. This was their first game in 25 years in the Championship, but fair enough. Not to be fair, I thought it was Oxford's first ever game in the Championship, but evidently not. But I completely agree with you, George. I think you raise a very fair point. That is what you've said there. Is you've hit the nail on the head. You're completely right, mate. We need to be beating teams like Oxford, albeit, like, that's no disrespect to them. I can't be too disrespectful towards Oxford United. Of course, did so well last season, statistically one of the best pressing teams in League One. So they've come up with a high reputation, and you always want to give it your all as a newly promoted team. I think that is the thing, really, which a lot of people haven't really spoken enough about from what I've seen in online reactions. Maybe I've missed these comments, but I think a lot more people should be giving more credit to Oxford. I saw a lot of articles saying, "Oh, Oxford shock Norwich," and everything. But the thing is, when you're an internal Norwich fan, well, I say internal, but like when you watch Norwich all the time, like myself and all the people who are watching here, most likely, is it a shock? Is it, like, I get they're newly promoted, but I wouldn't call it a shock. I'd just say Oxford, to use a cliche, they wanted it more. Like, they're playing up to what is a massive occasion for them, and they took the game by the scruff of the neck, and in the end they ran away comfortable with it. So you've got to give credit to them. It's not that they've shocked us, really. It's just they knew what was expected of them, and they went out and did it. They performed at the level expected of them in the Championship, and ultimately just did what they had to do. But anyway, we'll go back to FPL Hayden. He's got another point here. Felt like watching a David Wagner Norwich team. Surprised with how few chances were created, especially when you have a striker with the quality of Sargent. Again, I'm struggling to disagree with all of these points, and they're all very fair. No, and I thank you all for sharing them once again. Again, I'll go back to that point I sort of said earlier. I do think these players are still hanging on to that David Wagner football. Like, they spent a season and a half playing it, and there's a lot of the older heads that were in the team, which were signed under him and learnt to play the style of football that he wanted. It is a big shift when you change manager. I can imagine. I mean, obviously, I'm not a professional footballer. I've never had that ever in my life, but I can imagine that is quite difficult. I think that players are going to, as I've already said a million times probably here, it's going to take time. That they're not going to be absolutely perfect, and the change in manager changes absolutely everything. That's just not how football works. That isn't going to be the perfect scenario where Torup comes in and we play every week and we batter everyone and we play the best football in the league. That's just not how this sport works. And these older players, they aren't comfortable with the ball at their feet. That's the thing. We know that. Grant Hanley is not a ball-playing defender. Shane Duffy isn't really a ball-playing defender either. But then who else have you got? Jose Cordoba is yet to play, but seems like he can be that player. But again, this is a kid who's only ever played in the Bulgarian league. It's a big jump. There is no doubt it's a big jump. Callum Doyle playing as left back, but then he came and played almost sort of as that third centre half. I did notice sort of earlier on in the game when we were defending in a 4-3-3, when actually out of possession, we did sit really deep, which of course invites pressure from the opposition. And that's the last thing you want to do against Oxford. As I said earlier, for people who are just joining, and again, I thank you all for watching. Do let me know any of your thoughts. If you've already shared some or you want to share more, do let me do let me know. Put it in the comment section below and we'll have a bit of a talk about it, as Norwich City fell to defeat on the opening day of the season away at Oxford. But as I've already said, Oxford, one of the best pressing teams statistically in League One. That is their play style and they stick to it. And obviously when you learn it and the players can integrate in it, you do it well, which is exactly what Oxford did today. And that's what Norwich will hopefully do in the future. Like it takes its time. Des Buckingham, of course, fair play to him, got them promoted, but Oxford, they've obviously been in and around the playoff picture in League One for quite a few seasons, but it takes time to fully learn how you play in a style and how to do it well. You need to then get players in that you feel are confident in that style, and they have to work straight away. It's a tough old sport, football, and it's a hard old business to make everything work straight away. And again, we've got another point here from FPL Hayden. He's running the show at the minute. No, he's absolutely smashing it. Centre-back partnership of Hanley and Duffy don't suit how Johannesov tore upside, wants to build up, and felt Norwich struggled to create openings. The deep line probably feels down to a lack of pace. What is it with everyone in these comments and being spot on? Just, again, I can't disagree. I simply can't. And you're, again, I've already said this myself and you're echoing my thoughts, but it is correct. There is no hiding that Grant Hadley and Shane Duffy are not ball-playing defenders. That they never have been in their career. They played together at Blackburn for a bit, but they've never been renowned for being fantastic with the ball at their feet. I feel like what the problem was, maybe with Norwich last season, which has affected them going into this one with the squad they've got, a lot of the centre-halves, before signing Doyle, before signing Cordoba, a lot of the centre-halves are very similar in the way they play. They're just sort of big, strong, physical centre-halves who just love aerial duels. They love a one-on-one where they can put off a defender. And they aren't blessed for pace. You're completely right. They can't track back 20 yards, 30 yards quick as they can in a counter-attack when you've got a fast team doing it against you. And we know that because we watch it almost every single week. Hopefully, if Cordoba is utilised, I would love to see Brad Hills utilised as well. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know how highly I rate Brad Hills based off of his pre-season. I do think if he gets consistent game time, he could be a quality little player. I think we've got a real gem there, and hopefully he plays against Stevenage. I hope he doesn't go out on loan to Peterborough, because I feel like he could genuinely get a lot of play time in this squad. Again, let me know what you all think of Brad Hills, or what you think maybe another issue is. What should Norwich look to do maybe in their next game on team selection? That's the point. I said I was going to get onto it. I'll get onto it now. A lot of youth. Now, Torup is known for that, and his old team, Norgerland, are known for having a young team. But there was only 3 players on our bench of 9 who are over the age of 21. That seems crazy. Surely you would want the mix of the more senior heads that you can have on the bench and have available ready to you to make impacts. It's a big ask getting a young player on and telling him, right, it's your first team debut, go change the game. We're 2-0 down, get me a point. It's a big ask. And these are players, again, who in pre-season were playing for the academy sides. That is a huge jump in standard of football. It is big for them. There's no doubt. Maybe a lot will go out on loan. We'll have to wait and see. But it is difficult for those young players, and there's a lot of pressure on them. There is no hiding that. But the team selection, I thought, was nuts. Obviously, Rowe said he wasn't going to play and whatever, so it was a case of who else do you play other than Fastnacht? But he hasn't played. He's barely played pre-season, and he's not that great. That's another issue. Fastnacht isn't that good of a player, in my opinion. Anyway, he's not. He just doesn't seem like a winger. He doesn't have He's not got the pace. He hasn't really got the build of a winger. He's a bit stocky, and again, didn't really play in pre-season. I thought as well. Apart from that, really, he couldn't have done much else, Torup, in terms of starting 11. Ben Chrysene's out injured for a little bit, so you can't play him at left back. Cordoba's not fully fit. You can't play him. But Hanley and Duffy as a partnership is ludicrous. How have we got into 2024 and Grant Hanley is still Norwich's starting centre half. It's mental. When you've got someone like Hills who has shown such promise, why not reward him? I just don't understand it. It's very, very odd. Midfield selections, I think, pretty much bang on, because what else can he do? Amankwa hasn't played a single minute of pre-season. His first minutes in the Norwich shirt come today. And then, yeah, he'll probably start against Stevenage. I'd imagine against Stevenage we will make quite a lot of changes, and we'll see a lot more of the younger lads getting starts and sort of seeing how they work in the system. I hope we win that game, because that'd be quite bad to lose to Stevenage. But hey ho, that's a game on another day, and that maybe we can do another one of these streams for. But again, another comment from our mate here, FPL Hayden. With Rowan Sarah departing, feels like big investment is needed in the forward line, as with respect to Fastnacht and Hernandez, we're not providing enough goal returns. Yeah. I mean, spot on. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. Fastnacht scored, 6 goals last season? Not bad at all. Pops up with some vital ones, has to be said. Onel Hernandez has not scored for Norwich in over a year. He's not scored at Carrow Road for even longer than that. Albeit, don't get me wrong, lovely guy, loves the club, can be very useful on his day, but there is investment needed in this forward line. But who do Norwich go for? The thing is, with Amankwa Forson, he can be used either in midfield or defensive midfield, or he can play on the right-hand side. But Norwich really haven't got many other players in depth, at least the first-team players. That is what the problem is, I think. When I looked at when the squad numbers were released, well, even if you include Forson and Amankwa, I think we only have 27 first-team players, like, fully registered with shirt numbers. That's crazy. Like, that genuinely is a really thin squad. When you have to name 20 in a match day squad, that is very, very thin. I think that is really difficult to come up with your best team, because only 7 of them are missing out. Like, it's very weird. It is very, very strange. And then we've got another comment here from Hayden again. He's absolutely loving it, and I'm loving that he's here and he's giving us all these thoughts to give us some stuff to talk about. Otherwise, it'd be a little bit awkward. Says, what's the expectation for Norwich this season? Feels like we should be challenging for top 6, but this could be more of a 17-18 season. Expectation, I think, with how we ended up in the playoffs last season, that is the expectation. I think you need to do, at the very least, as well as you did the season before. There is no question about that. You can't deny that, really. That Norwich should be up there. A team of a club of our stature who have been in the Premier League a lot over the last few years, I think that would be perfect, really. Norwich need to be aiming for the playoffs, challenging for top 6, like you say. But I agree with that point of it could be a 17-18 season like we had with Farke, because this is a rebuild. This is ultimately what is so important that people remember. This is a massive rebuild season for Norwich. Yes, it started in a poor way and we've lost at Oxford, a team we should be beating. We should be blowing out of the water. You have to accept that this is the first competitive game under a new manager, first competitive game for players who have only had about 4 or 5 weeks of pre-season to learn his style. They're not going to get it perfect straight away. It takes time. It does take time. Yes, it is thoroughly annoying that we have lost to Oxford and we've done it in a stupid manner, but it's football. We do need to keep a bit calm. Yes, it is a bad start. No one wants that, but there's 45 games to put it right. It's going to take time. I think it will be a rebuild. I don't expect much. I had us in our league prediction video. If you've watched it here or you haven't already, I put us in 9th. I think I can see us dropping off. I can see us being in the fight for the playoffs because we have the quality to do so. I just don't think we're going to get there in the end. But we've got a few comments here. We've got 2 each from Obsidian Block. We'll put up his first one here. Or Stephen Pass, even, who's put in quite a few. We've got the first one here. The Premier League loan market will get a lot easier to work with at the back end of the window once Premier League clubs know their squad, fill out their squad, spend some money getting rid of Deadwood. Yeah, Fair point. Very fair point. You're spot on with that, Stephen. Will Norwich maybe look for more loans there? Maybe. They've already got one domestic loan. I'm pretty sure in the Championship you're only allowed 2 from English leagues. So they can definitely go for someone, though. Like, there's going to be a player of good quality who needs time at a Championship club to properly learn the game and be good with it. So I would like to agree with that Norwich can go into the Premier League loan market and utilise that. And then we'll get his other comment up here. Trying to play possession football. Yeah, I don't even need to read the rest of it. And I don't even really need to talk about it. Yeah, it's impossible. Stacey just loves to bomb up the right-hand side, put crosses in. Hanley and Duffy, as I have said already so many times, they're not ball-playing centre-halves. Kenny McLean can be a good ball-playing midfielder, but he's a bit more deep-lying. That's the thing with Kenny McLean. He's a very deep-lying player who just loves to ping it forward and go for the long balls. But yeah, he's not, and he does slow. I think that he slows down play a little bit as well. That was a big criticism coming out of pre-season, was he slowed down the play quite a lot. And Torp's not going to like that. We want high ball speed. You want to be moving the ball around quickly. You want to be playing it. And here we go. Some comments from Obsidian Block. And we've already had this from someone else as well. Forson was amazing. Brilliant to hear. Of course, I thought, looked very sharp. He looks a quality little player. Hopefully he starts against Stevenage, which this guy even says here, he's going to be going to the game. So I agree with you. Hopefully it is better. I do hope you enjoy the game. I can't make it because I'm based in Brighton, unfortunately, but I will be trying my hardest to tune into it. I'm sure with the quality we have, we should blow them away. This may get clipped up, but we should blow them away and we should beat them. But anyway, going on to some comments here from Dubai Canary. Thank you for watching, my friend. Saying pretty awful. Yeah. It was. Yeah. Hanisov tore up. Certainly has his work cut out now. Napa too. I don't know about work cut out. I think it's going to be hard for them. This is the thing. I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's taking its time. This is the problem. It's taking time. I wouldn't say they work cut out. I think this game was to probably realise who's not going to be comfortable in this system, who isn't maybe going to work properly in the system. That's how I feel. I think for Hanley and Duffy, this was a bit of a going back to a Farker season. I feel like this was their Marcel Franca and Russell Martin moment. I think we've realised they're probably not cut out and we need younger replacements that can do this well and have experience with ball playing. But who knows? He even goes on to say it was a bit of Wagner's dad's army. That's one way of putting it. There's certainly, it wasn't great, was it? It wasn't. Norwich don't really look like they've come far from the Wagner era and the style of play. But again, takes time. It takes time. Just have patience. If we have patience, thing is, I'll raise this point to everyone watching. I'd love to know your thoughts. Would you be happy, say Norwich finish 11th, but there is clear signs of a good play style and you see evident patterns of play every single week and it is entertaining? Would you be happy with that? Because for me, I would. Personally, that may sound a bit fickle of me now that we've lost to Oxford, but and I'm sort of settling for it, you may think, but I personally would take that. I would take a mid-table season and but show clear signs of development. I think that's what the key thing is for Norwich this season. It's showing these signs of development and showing there is a plan and it can work. That is a big thing for us this season. It's all about building the team. It's completely all about that and learning to do this properly and do it well. Back to our mate Obsidian Block. He's piling in the comments. Thank you, my friend. Think we can beat Stevenage 2-0? Yeah. Just, I don't care what the scoreline is. Beat them. Beat them and get through. Onto his next point here. Oxford always follow the fans' atmosphere last season in League One when the fans were going mental. They were playing amazing. That's, basic point in football. A really basic point in football, which is underestimated, I feel. I think definitely that was my big worry obviously, this is so easy to say in hindsight. Norwich lost 2-0, poor performance. Oxford fans were very good, and that helped build the atmosphere. But it does. That is the thing. That's exactly what their fans had to do. They had to get up for this game. It's their first championship game in 25 years. They had to get up for it. There's no doubt about that. They were going to be up for this game and make it hard for Norwich. They were always going to make it hard for Norwich. That's the thing. They weren't going to just sit down the whole game and do the odd chant here and there. Well, just watch their team play and think, oh, but it's a good championship team. It doesn't matter. We'll probably lose this game. No, you want to be up for it. Every game, fans, they're always up for it, especially for Oxford. They're always going to be up for games, and I respect them for that. And obviously, you're going to play well when the fans behind you. That's such a huge thing. Well, we saw it with David Wagner last season. We've seen it with Dean Smith. It's when fans are on your back, your players become scared of making mistakes. As a player, you become scared of making a mistake, and as a manager, if you hit back, they hate you even more. We've seen it with Wagner and some of Dean Smith's comments in the past. If you hit back and you don't do it in a nice manner, the fans aren't going to like you. They're going to get on your back, and that makes your job incredibly difficult. Because if you keep doing poorly, probably because you worry about doing poorly and you have that mental barrier, then it does become difficult. So I completely agree. I'll just put the comment up again if people didn't see it. Completely agree with this. Fans go mental, you play better, because there's a feeling of connectivity. Remember the Farker years champion in that first season, in the second season of the championship rather. Carrow Road was bouncing almost every week. It was brilliant, absolutely superb. Well, we already had our mate FPL Hayden. He thought Blackburn could get a result at Carrow Road. Obsidian Block reckons we can beat them. That is, again, Matt, my fingers across too. We have got good home form. Over the 2024, we haven't lost at Carrow Road in a competitive fixture. But who knows? Hopefully, for what it's worth, I said this earlier, I thought Blackburn were really sharp against Derby. And that's not, I think Derby fell off after they conceded the second. But they were really, really good, Blackburn. Looked super sharp, but they could lose Smodix, which will be a big loss. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Back to our mate Dubai Canary. We'd be happy with the youngsters playing a wider role if it was shaping something exciting for the future. Great point. Again, a great point, and a very fair one. Because, yes, of course you want the youngsters to play in the team. Or maybe they may not get that many games and little game time. But, yes, if it does build something for the future, brilliant, absolutely superb. You want to see that. Ultimately, this is a project, and the signings we've made have shown that this is a project with the future in mind and the long term for Norwich City, rather than just getting through this season and seeing what we can do. This is a season where it is for the future. These signings are very much on the mind of how we're going to cope going forward, and not just, well, we're signing them now because they'll make us a better team. Norwich are going to want to build up something to really have players in their team for a long time that are quality, and we can be the club where we make them better. So I like that point there. And we've got another one here from Stephen. Really hoping for a Miles debut on Tuesday. Great talent, look really bright, full of confidence. Think we really need that. I'm just agreeing with everything. I'm not even doing it just for the sake of being positive and happy-go-Larry, but after a poor performance and a loss. But I really do agree with this. I really like Elliot Miles, and Will on our YouTube, on the channel here, who you may have seen before if you watch the videos, our academy correspondent. He will agree with that. He'll love that. I do hope for that too. I watched when we played Leeds in the FA Youth Cup last season. We lost the game, but I thought he was brilliant for what it's worth. Really sharp with the ball at his feet. Brilliant. Was so good ball at his feet, just dribbling and just getting around players. He's really quite a trickster as well. He's a very good player. I do hope he gets his debut. I would like to think he would. I think, as I've already said, Stevenage, we will probably play a lot of a younger team, a lot of youngsters getting their first game. Sorry if it's going a bit dark now. Probably the sunlight outside isn't as best, so I might have to call it soon. But we'll keep going for any points that you guys have. If there's anything else you want to talk about, whether that's about Norwich's result away at Oxford today, or looking forward to Stevenage, maybe even Blackburn as well, or what you think about the team selection from today, do let me know in the comments, and I will share them with everyone on here. So going on to our next point, Hayden's back. Hello, mate. Still can't believe we were the last team to win at Carrow Road way back in November. Thought Norwich were awful that day. Yeah, that is a brilliant point, actually. Norwich haven't lost at home since that disaster against Blackburn. No, that is crazy to think, really, isn't it? And we were really bad. I came back from Brighton to Norwich for a weekend, and I watched that game. Yeah, that was what made me realise at the time how bad it really was under David Wagner. When you went 2-0 up within the first 15 minutes, this is Blackburn, by the way, I realised how bad it was and how poor Norwich were at the time. And yet we weren't that much greater. There's no hiding that. We were poor today. We really were. Hence why I've titled this video, or the stream. You can watch this back as a video if you missed any of it and you're just joining us. Here, a poor start. Yeah, we weren't much better. We'll go on to his next point here. Would you rotate the team fully for Stevenage or play a strongest team to hope to win and gain confidence and momentum? Great question. Really, really good question. For me, obviously I'm not a coach, but what I would do, I think I'd do what we usually do, Carol. I play a mix of first team. You know, I'll give a lineup. I'll give a lineup. I'd put George Long in goal because rotate. You know, you want to have your players in. I'll put George Long in there. I'll just put this down just to say, Tony, in here. Yep, I'm getting your comments. Okay, I will go on to your points in a second. I'm not ignoring you. I will go on to your points. I'll just give this lineup and I'll come over to you. I'd put George Long in goal. I'd play a back four. I'd put Chrysene left back. I'd have Hills and Cordova, centre half. And I would play Kellen Fisher at right back. I'd have a three-man midfield of McLean, Forsyth and Gibbs. And then I'd play a front three I would have Miles and Sainz either side of Adam Eder if he's still here, because you need to give Eder the game time. That's what I would do. I would personally do that. I'd have a mix to answer your question. But anyway, going on to your points, Tony. Sorry I didn't do this earlier. I'm getting your comments, okay? So let's have a look. Forson was good. Hanley, I don't want him near the team again. We've discussed this. Yeah, and again, I can't disagree. Forson and Mankwer looks good. He's a very good player. To go on about your points about you don't want Hanley near the team, we'll go on to his next comment here. Hanley was so bad. He is slow on the ball. Again, we have discussed this. Not to take any credit away from your comment, Tony, but you're spot on, mate. You are spot on. He's not a ball-playing defender. I don't know how many times I've said that in this stream, but he's not. And he is slow on the ball. He slows the pace down as well. And I said this earlier. He does slow the pace down of games. And Torop, I don't think, will like that because it's all about high ball speed and playing it quickly and working from defence to attack quick as you can, creating turnovers and scoring goals. So we'll go back to another point here from Tony. Very disappointed with how Rowe behaved today. Shocking, was unprofessional. Yeah, I've covered this a bit at the start. And I've just seen your comment now here. Say you just put a comment about Rowe. Here it is, Tony. It is very unprofessional for a player who, I said that again, sound like a broken record. I said this a little bit earlier at the start. I might do a little bit more about this if anyone else watching wants to give their thoughts on the game, on what they might do for Stevenage, or maybe our team selection today, or about Jonathan Rowe's actions before the game. If you don't already know, he was supposed to start in the game 20 minutes before it kicked off in the team meeting. He goes up to Johannes Torop's office and says, amid all this transfer speculation, it's messing my head up. I don't want to play, which is code word for me is I'm on a flight to Marseille. See you later, mate. Best of luck. But the evaluation isn't even anywhere near what we want, which is really annoying at the same time. But it is unprofessional. You think of Max Aarons, you think of Ben Godfrey, and even Jamal Lewis, they just got their heads down. They got their heads down amid any interest, even on Bamadele. They got these young lads from the academy. They got their heads down and cracked on. They just went and played. They went out and just did what they had to do. They played the games and they didn't let transfer interest speculate on them and make them go up to the manager office and go, "Oh, I don't know, boss. All this speculation. I'm not in the right headspace. I can't play." And Torop himself has even said that Rowe himself and Napa are going to have a conversation about this, because he even said it can't happen on game day. It can't. That is so poor from Rowe. This is a guy who we gave his debut in first team football to. We gave him his first full season in senior football, and he was brilliant. And now it's even when it was like sort of January, when he had all that interest from Wolves and Brentford and Palace, he just got his head down and kept playing. I don't understand what's so different. I really don't. Like, is it that he doesn't know what's going on behind the scenes? As Dubai Canary, perfect timing from you, my friend. We obviously, yeah, you're spot on. We don't know the full story in details. All we know is that Rowe went to the office and he said he didn't want to play. But yeah, on the surface, as you say, bad, really bad. It does stink. The attitude is really poor for someone who's 21, really poor from Rowe. I'm quite disappointed that it's ending in this way. If he is to leave now, it's a really sour note to end it on. It's a bit like Adam Eder, of course, who didn't get to the trip to Austria on time for pre-season, and then he storms off the pitch against St. Pauli, just goes straight down the tunnel. It's poor. That you can't do that with your attitude. And I feel with Eder, of course, it was a bit of a scapegoat to think about him, but he's not helping himself in the way he's acting. John Rowe, that's shocking. Really, I thought he was a lot better than that. And I wonder what he thinks, what people are thinking of him. Like, I'd love to hear his side of the story, but I don't think we will, unfortunately. Will he play maybe against Stevenage midweek? Maybe, if he's still here, maybe not. It's just really poor. It's really poor. But next point from Tony here. I thought we couldn't even make a 5 million forward ball. We couldn't, or 5 metres, sorry. I don't know why I've said 5 million. 5 metres, sorry. Couldn't make a 5 metre forward ball. We couldn't pass to each other well. Do you think Torup will play Hanley again, in your opinion? In my opinion, no. I think after what was seen today and his mistake for the first goal and the clear how uncomfortable he is. Sorry, I've got to move closer so you can actually see me. It really is getting dark now. It's only 8:15. But yeah, I don't think he should play. I think it would be suicidal to play Hanley because he's not comfortable on the ball. He's not the centre-half Torup wants. He's brought in Cordoba to have that. He brought in Doyle to have that as well. And then you can have Chrysene at left back. I don't think he will. But I would imagine, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because, of course, there's uncertainties around Cordoba and then there could be injuries. But I don't think he should play him again. I think it would be really bad to give Hanley another run out. I just don't think that's the right call. Duffy, thing is, in pre-season, Duffy did impress me he wasn't bad, but he's not that type of player still. I think we could be we could need some more centre-halves. Torup himself said that we needed 2 players to replace Sarah. Amank Forson's one of them. He's come through the door. The Pinken boys, if you're not familiar with that, that's the local paper for Norwich City. They have reckoned that Norwich are going to make another signing. They think we are going to make more signings. So I hope so. I hope that's the case, because we clearly need them. Like, we've got a thin squad as it is, as I said earlier. Only got 27 first team players registered. It's really, really worrying. Going back to our friend here, Dubai Canary. Sorry when our old stages get past their best. Hanley to Swindon. That's a huge call. That is a huge call, my friend. Hanley to Swindon. Wow. Who knows? He might go back to Scotland and play for Aberdeen or something. But wow, Hanley to Swindon. Let's just get that back up. Huge, huge. And then back here to our friend Tony. Hills and Doyle at centre-back. I thought in midfield we looked so weak. Yeah, we were weak in midfield. But that's because we don't really have a proper box-to-box, you could argue. And we don't. Without Sarah, we are going to struggle, because he was the link from defence to attack. We need to find a player who can be that. Excuse me. Hills and Doyle centre half. It can work, definitely, because Doyle, when we're in possession, becomes a third centre half anyway on the left side. So then he's naturally sort of more left-footed. Hills, again, has been so impressive in pre-season. I don't know why he didn't play or start rather. I think that's so harsh on him. Midfield, we look weak. Yeah, we do. Right, well, we've come up to 46 minutes. I'm amazed, actually. We lasted that long. I didn't think we would, but thank you all for your comments. If there's any last ones you want to get in, do now, and I'll quickly cover them. But yeah, I do thank you for anyone who's come in and watched. Of course, it's a bit late in the day. The game finished hours ago, but I do really appreciate you watching it and any support for the channel. Again, I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been really good doing this over the past 10 weeks. Season has now started. We are going to hopefully do more videos like this, like these live streams after games. Hopefully we do them a bit quicker after games rather than we wait until 7:30 for a 12:30 kickoff. But of course, we all, myself and the other lads who you've maybe already seen on the channel, if you're familiar with us, we all have like our own jobs and everything. Like, we aren't always going to be available straight away after games, but I do hope you've enjoyed this. If you have been watching, we'll go on. We'll make this the very last point. We will make this the last point from Tony again. What's my starting 11 for next Saturday? Right, Gunn in goal, Chrysene left back, Doyle, Cordoba centre half, Stacey right back, midfield 3, McLean. Arguably a new signing, if it happens. If it happens, that's what I would say. If we get like a midfield player in, I would also play a Manqua, Forson in midfield, and then. But if we don't get the new signing, I'll go with Nunez. Front 3, Sainz. You know what? No, sorry, I'll do this again. No. I'll put a Manqua on the right. I'll go with Nunez and Gabe Forsyth in midfield, and then I'll put Sargent, Sainz, and Manqua. So to go over that for my 11 for Blackburn: Gunn in goal, Chrysene, Doyle, Hills, almost forgot, Stacey right back, midfield, McLean, Nunez, Forsyth, and then front 3, Amanqua, Sainz, Sargent. And then they're spot on, Dubai Canary. Again, like and subscribe. Please do. Please do. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. And you'll see more stuff like this and all the other content we have done. But anyway, thank you all for coming and watching this. I appreciate it, albeit it's a little bit later in the day after the game. Yeah, thank you all so much. I've been Freddie Humphrey Wakefield, as it says inverted on that name bar there. Norwich have lost on the opening day of the season away at Oxford. Will they respond well against Stevenage and then against Blackburn at Carrow Road in the Carabao Cup and Championship, respectively? We don't know. We'll have to wait until next week. Tony, thank you. And anyone else who's in here who hasn't, do just that. I've been Freddie Humphrey Wakefield. This has been the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video of ours here on the channel. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you then.